organization located here in Milwaukee that serves a purpose to give youth a voice because most of the time our voices are looked over. So,
my name is Bria Smith. I'm a 17-year-old junior at Franklin High School as well, and I also work for LIT. And we're here to hear things, even though we can't vote, but we're still here to hear your campaign. So if you want to get 30 to 45 seconds for yourself, your campaign, and your vision for a better Wisconsin.
I am Andy Gronik, and I am the business guy in this race. I never imagined I would ever run for public office. I basically spent 18 months traveling the state of Wisconsin, talking to over 700 people before I made this decision. And I did it to try to identify and to inform the kinds of plans that would create good-paying jobs in our state, that would get us back to providing great education in the state of Wisconsin, and also to make sure that we have a system where everybody has access to affordable health care.
All right. I recognize you're a businessman, so I'm guessing you've been successful in that. Why leave a successful business to go do something else in which I'm guessing you're going to take a pay cut? And, why do that? For what's the purpose? Why are you doing this? What is this, are you getting out of this that you're going to do when you were doing fine beforehand?
So that's a great question. So my business I started an appraisal business and a business consulting business. So I helped struggling businesses solve problems so that they could ultimately grow and create jobs. A lot of that was around accessing the capital they needed to make that happen and ultimately help them access billions of dollars every year. I grew one of the largest businesses of its type in the world doing what we're doing. I sold that business in 2013, and I'm here because I'm a guy who really cares about what's going on in the state of Wisconsin. What's in it for me? Again, I never imagined in a million years that I would run for governor. But when I look around the state and see the fact that we now have people who are working 2 or 3 or 4 jobs, or teachers being attacked by a governor who doesn't have a plan to grow our state, or families like mine, because I'm on Obamacare, at risk of losing their health insurance because we have a governor that has attacked ACA and now wants to advance a stabilization bill like he's coming to the rescue. Come on. So for me, it's about people. I'm a guy who has always cared deeply about people, and I feel that I've got some problem-solving skills that will help to actually advance the kinds of things that will make living here better.
Speaking of problem-solving skills, can you tell us a little bit about your plans as it relates to criminal justice reform? Milwaukee, 53206, I'm a public defender, faces some of the highest, if not the highest rate of incarceration for black men. Tell me some of your ideas to address this issue.
Right. So if you jump on our website, which is www.andygronik.com, you'll see all kinds of very detailed plans around jobs, education, healthcare. You'll also see very different, very specific positions on all kinds of different issues. So the stuff I'm talking about is going to be baked into that. But I'd like to actually begin before the problems start. So I would like early childhood education to be available to every kid in the state of Wisconsin that needs it. I think that our public schools should also have a bridge to families in the community that are struggling, that need help, that need counseling, so that when their kids show up to our schools, that they're ready to learn. I think the kinds of programs that should exist in our community, after school programs for kids, things that help to train folks in job skills, in life skills, in the kinds of just general financial skills that are needed to actually go on to a successful life, that those are the kinds of things that should be taught in our schools. That we should be teaching people the kind of skills around computers and software programs and how to use an internet, etc. So that we're actually actively looking at the kinds of things that keep people out of the system. Once you're in the system, you have to look at the entire system. We have to stop incarcerating people for the kinds of nonviolent crimes that are actually destroying families and lives throughout our state. And it is disproportionate to communities of color. That has to stop. You can look at a lot of different things to make that happen, but one thing would be the potential of legalizing marijuana so that we're not incarcerating people for those kinds of crimes. Instead, we're taxing it, we're regulating it properly, we're looking at opportunities to actually reduce our opioid addiction crisis like is happening in states like Colorado. When you talk about the actual incarceration, we have a real contradiction in terms right now. Governor Walker was essentially forced, as a guy who wants to be reelected, to address the whole issue of our youth prisons. But at the same time, at the very same time, he's putting in some things that are structurally 180% different than what he's agreed to on the youth side, and putting forward a bill where he wants another $300+ million to build an adult prison. I mean, it's just, this kind of stuff has to stop, and will stop when I'm governor. We need real plans to make sure that people, if they are incarcerated, are connected to the same kinds of jobs plans that will allow them to go on into life and back into a job that allows them to support their family and themselves, but can't do this in 12 minutes. Questions?
As the business guy in the group, how do you go about unifying different parts of Democrats across Wisconsin to actually win an election?
So that's a great question, too. So obviously I'm talking to Democrats, but I'm talking to everybody. I'm not trying to travel this state, and I'm traveling extensively, to find myself in an echo chamber, which is just around Democrats. It's around talking to Wisconsinites. There's a lot of people who aren't in this political bubble. They don't think about it in terms of being a Democrat or a Republican. They think about it in terms of how are their lives struggling, and what in the world is going on in the state of Wisconsin, and why is this happening under Scott Walker. So, but you're right. I mean, there is a lot of disagreement among Democrats. And what I say all the time is this. This party is kind of like a fireworks display. And each one of the issues that we care so deeply about, it's one of those lights in the sky, right? And I care deeply about those issues too. But if you think about why are we actually here, we're here. You're here at this table with me because you care deeply about people and you want to make their life better. So what I tell Democrats all the time is stop arguing about all the lights and come down to the basis of why you're here. Because if we actually form together and we fight together and we're moving forward together on the kinds of things that will make life better, then we're going to win. It's that simple. And for people who are worried about Governor Walker and the fact that he's won 3 times, I'd simply say this. He has a playbook to beat establishment Democrats. He does not have a playbook to beat me. I'm a guy who can go toe-to-toe with Governor Walker on his Open for Business Wisconsin and have a real conversation about the failures of the policies and what that's meant to the lives of people throughout this state. And I intend to do that. So we can come together as Democrats, and we will. That takes leadership, and I'm providing that leadership. And I can go toe-to-toe with Scott Walker, and I'm the guy that's going to beat him.
In the light of recent events that are happening within our country, what is your take or position on gun control? And if you think they should restrict gun control or make it much looser, and what do you think you should do with that?
So I've said very clearly that I would take on the NRA. I would never take a penny from the NRA, that I would ban assault rifles, that I would ban any military-style weaponry, ammunition, bump stocks, that the common sense gun laws that will keep people to actually have a real waiting period is absolutely essential. The kind of background checks are essential. We got to make sure that we fund the kind of mental health programs in the state of Wisconsin that will help people. I think there's ways to be able to identify people that could potentially be at risk of these kinds of shootings. You're in high school. I've got a child who's in 8th grade, and my daughter is in elementary school. Like every parent, for every one of these shootings, for every slaughter that we've seen, I run home to my kids and I want to hug them and make sure that they're okay. So this is not going to happen on my watch. I'll take on the NRA, who is a very strong special interest. I'm not here to play the game. I won't play the game. This is all about making sure that we take common sense steps towards making sure this does not happen. Now, I will also say this. We have a culture of hunting in the state of Wisconsin, which is very different from gun violence. It's not only an important part of who we are as a state, but it's an incredibly important part of our tourism revenue. So I think that we can distinguish between issues around gun violence and keeping our schools safe, and also respecting what happens in the state of Wisconsin around hunting.
which political figure, past or present, do you feel yourself most aligned with, and why?
Past or present? Well, I don't want to say, listen, Obama, I am a business guy, okay? So, and I work with struggling companies. When President Obama stepped up and was elected, he was confronted with some issues that very few presidents have ever been confronted with. We were literally standing on the edge of a cliff economically. He was also advocating for a bailout of General Motors, which the Republicans pushed back on hard. Had President Obama not made the decisions that he made with the speed that he made them, we would have gone off that economic cliff, not just the United States, but the entire world. If the critics of him bailing out our auto industry had succeeded, we would no longer see a GM or a Chrysler in their current form. We would have seen Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 suppliers throughout the state of Wisconsin, the country, and the world fail, which would have pushed us into an economic depression unlike any that we have ever seen. So I have enormous admiration for very difficult decisions that were made that were hotly contested on the other side by people now who want to take credit for the fact that our economy is doing great and that we've seen record sales of automobiles for multiple years. And to President Trump, who wants to put tariffs on steel, I will simply say that the steel that's being sold of recent years largely is going into products like our automobiles. To put tariffs or to protect the inefficiencies that exist in steel or aluminum plants, or for Governor Walker to try to push money at the front door of Kimberly-Clark, who has been a great partner in the state of Wisconsin, does not solve the actual problem of the technological obsolescence that exists in those plants. That's where we should be focusing our problem solving.